Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Florence Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. My name is Sally Wantz, and I am so pleased to be with you today. We live in a culture that has separated us from the natural world. We live in buildings that protect us from the local climate. We travel in vehicles that ignore the weather and eat food that comes from factories and is wrapped in plastic. Thank you, Burger King.
Oh, wow.
But nature is telling us we are not separate from this biosphere, that we are, in fact, very much a part of it, and subject to natural processes that we can't begin to understand, much less control. So how do we cultivate a different kind of relationship with the natural world? This is interdependent web at its best. We are a part of it all. Well, once we get through our opening order of service today, we have Dr. Ruth Miller here to share her studies of history, ecology, and system sciences to help us clarify our next steps in that direction. So speaking of nature, let us acknowledge that we stand here today on the native, traditional land of the first people of Florence, the Saisla Indians. We honor with gratitude the land itself and the members of the Saisla tribe, past, present, and future. So I invite Catherine and Ruth to come forward. Jeff is going to be playing Spirit of Life as we open our service. And Jay is behind the camera, but he'll come forward as best he can as well. So Jay, Jeff, let's take it away.
All right.
Spirit of Life. Oh, that sounds lovely.
Spirit of life, come unto me, sing in my heart all the stories of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Whose holy clothes we set thee free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Thank you, Jeff. I remind everybody here today, and you at home, please silence your cell phones so you don't annoy your neighbors, the dog, or the cat. And let's see, today I've got Catherine, I've got Jay, we've got Ruth, and we have Jeff. So the five of us welcome you here. So we are taping this on Friday, October 8th. It's a little chilly outside. We hope by the time you watch this on Sunday the 10th, the weather will have cleared, it'll be warm. You can enjoy a cup of coffee as you experience this wonderful Sunday service. And speaking of the wonderful service on the 10th, at 11:15, we have our dialogue circle. Karen Hernandez, I think, is your host for the day. Ruth Miller, we hope, can join us. We had a great discussion last month when she was with us. You can find virtual access to this dialogue circle on our website, on the calendar. And the website is florenceuuf.com. It's also in the Today's Blast, so you can have access to that. Also, Ruth hosts a second Wednesday Course in Miracles class at 2 p.m. on the second Wednesday, whatever date that is. I think it's the 10th, 13th. It's the 13th. If you want to attend, you can send an email to Ruth at well, let's start over again. Send an email to Ruth at ruthlmillerphd.com or find the class on the FOOF calendar on our website. I'm going to repeat that again in a minute. The FOOF board meeting is October 13th at 3 p.m. via Zoom, and if you want to attend, please send us an email to florence.unitarian@gmail.com. You can also find that email on the FOOF calendar on the website. We keep telling you about this website, and it really is a good website, and the calendar has all the things that we're doing throughout the months. So it's your key to what's going on. Oh, also, Circles in the Sand returns on Saturday the 16th. And I think they're going to start their labyrinth carving in the sand near Driftwood Shores probably about 3 o'clock. And probably the labyrinth will open for walking 4:35. Sunset is early, so I think you're going to see some foofers out there that day. So come join us for Circles in the Sand. I believe this is their 5th time they've been here in Florence. Wonderful, wonderful opportunity to walk a beach labyrinth. That's gigantically enormous. It's a new word. That's it. Anybody have any announcements here in the gallery? No? Okay. So I invite Catherine to come forward. She's going to light our chalice flame. These words come from Eric Williams, and it's titled, "There is Light." In the beginning, there was light, infinite and expansive, flowing out from an unseen center. Throughout creation, there is light from the steady sun, the glowing moon, the flashing meteor, the twinkling stars, and the auroras dancing in the northern skies. Within each part of creation, there is light, slowed down and held close by every cell and molecule, by each atom and element. Within you, there is light, the same light as the source, the same radiance that is in all creatures. May this small flame that we lit be a constant reminder to you of your true nature and your kinship with all beings. Blessed be. Catherine, would you like to come forward and share our joys and concerns? I will gladly help drop some shells if you like. Okay.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
This is the time we acknowledge each other as members of a loving community. However we do it, in thought, word, or deed, in sharing our vulnerability and our hope, all is sufficient. When loving kindness is the vessel, the vehicle of these thoughts, words, and deeds, we navigate in truth. I'm going to first share a sorrow. Colin Pierce, the husband of our minister Marcia Pierce, made his transition last week. My current information is that she is now accepting calls. If you know her, maybe drop her a line. I know she likes to communicate by email. We love you, Marcia. We love you. Marcia Phillips, another. And wait, put another one in for Colin, as well as Marcia. Marcia Phillips is having her awaited surgery next week. This is the next stage of her recovery. Let's hold her in our hearts for the best possible outcome. Anyone else? Anyone have a joy or a concern?
Well, I have a joy. The thing isn't working because the battery's dead. Okay. My joy is I just got back from a week in Colorado. I got to visit with family, Jennifer's family, her 2 sisters and families, and her daughter and family, as well as my 4 friends from high school. We celebrate every couple of, twice a year. So anyway, I got to go to Colorado. It was a wonderful trip, and it brings me great joy to be able to travel and do all of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. This last shell is for anyone we don't know about. We are with you in heart and mind. You are included and you are not alone. I'll conclude with a quote by Barbara Bonner. Generosity is often quite bold, ignoring the vice of friends and family and moving forward with courage and conviction. Generosity is willing to take risks. In fact, risks have little constraint on a generous heart. Generosity invites us to put ourselves in another's shoes, to see and feel the existence of a pressing need and realize it is within our power to help. And then act in whatever way we can. It's really as simple as that. Blessed be. I invite Jay Getler for the reading.
Today's reading is attributed to Chief Noah Self, also known as Chief Seattle, and it's titled We Belong to the Earth. I've heard this one before and I especially enjoy it. This we know, the earth does not belong to us. We belong to the earth. This we know, all things are connected, like the blood which unites one family. All things are connected. Whatever befalls the earth befalls the sons and daughters of the earth. We do not weave the web of life, we are merely a strand of it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. Beautiful sentiment. With this, I'd like to introduce Jeff Lovejoy. He's going to do hymn number 203.
Love the harmony you put into that one. Thank you.
Sounds like a real church.
Yeah. A full church.
A full church.
That was lovely. Thank you so much. How good to be here with you.
Good to see you.
Yes.
Most of us grew up singing that hymn with slightly different words, but it was so appropriate to our topic today. Cultivating our relationship with the natural world. And our theme for this month is cultivating relationships, and we do have a small group guide, so if you would like to join us on that last Thursday of the month, we'll be deepening our understanding of this topic. And let me know at either my personal email or at soul.foof@gmail.com, soulmatters.foof@gmail.com for information on when and how. It's Zoom. Cultivating relationships. Isn't that an interesting topic during this time when we've been isolating for so long, and so many people are struggling because they're not feeling that connectedness. So one of the things that is really wonderful about this particular topic is we don't have to deal with the COVID regulations to do this one. And you know, when you first begin a relationship, when you start a relationship, the first thing that happens is the perceptual stuff, what we can see and hear, what we feel, and what we feel emotionally. That's the beginning. And for most of us, we have been taught not to pay attention to nature, Now, most Unitarians, that's not quite the case. The number of Unitarians whose bumper sticker says, "Nature is my church," I probably couldn't count the number of times I've seen that. And with our outdoor group, we get lots of opportunity to do what we need to do to begin to cultivate this relationship. Because obviously the first thing to do is to open our senses, to be aware of nature and the natural processes that are going on. You know, our very opening hymn, we talk about the wind, you know, and we talk about the ways that we feel the spirit in our life through natural processes. I love wind. I don't mind it at all. I know I'm in Florence. I had to cut my hair again so that it could deal with the wind, but that was good. And, you know, it's always felt so invigorating for me. And I've spent most of my life living near large bodies of water, except when I was in school in New Mexico, but that was an aberration. Living near large bodies of water with forests nearby. And this is perfect for me here because I get that just breathingness, aliveness of the tides and the ocean swells and sometimes the waves. I was in Depot Bay yesterday and the spouting horn was splashing everywhere. It was just marvelous. And then I get the peace and that wonderful rich aliveness of the forest with the green things of all different shades of green. I got to go deep into a forest the other day. It's just so wonderful. Ralph Waldo Emerson talks about these things. He was 200 years ago. Isn't that amazing? It's 200 years since he was doing his beginning of his work here. And in 1832, he had just returned from a long, extended trip in Europe. And one of the things he'd experienced in Europe was the gardens at Versailles, which at that time, and I understand there's a remnant of it still in place, were organized by the evolution of the plants. So at one end of a row, you would have like the berry vine, and at the other end of the row, you'd have this mature rose, right? Or at one end of the row, you'd have these little funny little pea vines, and at the other end of the row, you'd have these large potted peas. And so he was seeing this process of, I meant podded, not potted. Just make sure that's clear. So seeing this as nature's process, seeing this as, wow, there's this ongoing thing that's happening all the time, really made a difference for him. He also talked to a bunch of transcendentalists and romantic poets. So he really opened up to a whole new level of understanding on that trip. And he came back to Boston, his hometown. He'd never been in a forest. He'd never seen more than the coast before. So that trip, he'd never seen mountains. He saw the Alps. You know, he'd never seen this grandeur that is so much a part of what we experience here in America as traveling Americans. And he was wowed. He was totally wowed. And he sat down and started composing a series of lectures that he ended up publishing anonymously as a little booklet, the essay Nature, on nature. And that series of lectures were held in Boston at the library, one of the libraries there, and he was able to wake people up, at least a few of them, to the possibility that our notion in our culture that we should be separated from the natural world, that the nature was something to be afraid of and to control, because we always go into control when we go into fear. And that's our way of dealing with things. He was able to wake them up to the idea that that is not our right relationship with the natural. That we can have a different kind of relationship. And in that essay, he explores that a little bit. One of the ones that I like, one of the lines that I like, is he talks about when we enter into the forest, our very first steps and breaths invite us to leave our self-important trifles behind. Yes, and breathe with the forest. Another line that I love is he says, when I go down to the little river that passes through our town with my friend and we launch our boat, the very first dip of our paddles into the sunset waters opens up a magical world of possibilities that could not be experienced any other way. And he goes on in this essay, goes on and he talks about how this is all part of a series of processes and principles that we cannot change. We are part of and a product of nature's processes. And the principles are unchanging. You know, so we call those unchanging principles the laws of physics or the laws of chemistry. But they are these totally interconnected, totally mutually engaged principles and processes that lead to our being and lead to our well-being if we allow it. But our culture says, don't allow that. Control that. Make the water go where you want it. Don't let nature decide that. Make the air the quality you want it. Don't let it be what the natural world is doing right now. Make the soil be the way you think it should be. And so on and so on. Build your home so it really doesn't matter what climate you're in. You know, the Uniform Building Code that we use in this country is totally inappropriate for every single climate in this province. Every single climate. I've lived all over this country. I gotta tell you, there is nowhere that our Uniform Building Code applies. We're all dealing with something that is wrong, okay? What would happen if we thought about living in harmony with, in relationship with the natural processes? Some of you may have heard of something that Dennis Weaver started in Colorado and New Mexico, the earth ships. And that's exactly what he was doing. He was using tires, unfortunately, but in a way that's natural processes. That's using leftovers to, that work for something and filling them up with the rammed earth walls where you use the tire as your support, and you build lots of dirt over them to protect you and keep you the temperature of the earth. Because 2 feet down, in almost every part of the world, it's 55 to 59 degrees. Period. I don't care whether you're in New Mexico or in the Arctic, right? So if you're down in there, guess what? Summer and winter, you're already 55 or 59 degrees. So you can warm it up a little bit to 65 to 70, or you can, why would you cool it in the summer? You wouldn't need to. So it takes much less in the way of resources to work with nature and natural processes there. And they're built in a way where the wind just passes right over them, but they're focused, Ruth's big theme, south. So the opening of the winter sun comes in and warms up the space. Yeah, I think when I go on, everyone will only remember that. Oh, but it's so true. Yesterday I was sitting in my office chair against my south-facing window, just reveling in the warmth and the light and that sense of, yes, the sun is feeding us and supporting us and sustaining us in this natural process of life. Yes. And I was looking out through my little plant-filled porch at more plants. Yes, if we can just allow ourselves to do that. So the first level is senses, right? Letting ourselves actually feel it and act it and be with this thing we call nature, this beingness we call nature. Well, what normally happens then is our emotions get engaged, and you've already heard some of mine. And, so we would begin to explore, how do I feel? What are my emotions in this relationship? Do they tend to go towards love and appreciation, or do they tend to go towards fear and control? Which direction? And what is it? Oh, I'm afraid of that which I don't understand. understand. That which seems strange, that which seems outside my ken, my norm. Well, let me see if I can understand this, right? Can I understand these principles and processes that Emerson talked about almost 200 years ago? Can I understand the ways that, the physical laws work and the chemical laws work and the biological processes work? Well, needless to say, I spent a few years doing all of that. And I came to the understanding that we all did in the sciences who were interested in the connectedness of things, that became ecology and became the system sciences and cybernetics. Because it's all the same. It's talking about the relationships of the matter and the energy and the information that leads to something that is so far beyond what the elements suggest could be. There's a wonderful line that I have on the website for one of my little nonprofits, Gaia Living Systems Institute. And it says, there is no living matter. There is only living systems. There are only living systems. There are only the interactions of living processes that lead to the development and ultimately the fulfillment of every being in this universe. And that's a point that Wallace Wattles made in the book, The Science of, would you believe it, Getting Rich. He is saying that the universe is designed in a way that every being within it gets to become fully developed and fulfill the purpose for which it was conceived, if you will. The universe is designed for our fulfillment. Now, if I can bring that principle to the idea of what's going on in nature, I don't think I have to be quite so afraid of it. I don't think I have to be quite so controlling of it. I can begin to say, oh, wow. If I understand what's going on here, then what's going on here is for my fulfillment, my becoming the highest and best form of me I could ever be, and by extension, all of humanity. One way to think about this is that the acorn is supported in every possible way, not only to become a tree, but to become a forest. And a forest is many, 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 many forms of life together, all in that little tiny acorn. Because it sets up in harmony with natural processes all the conditions for all these different life forms. So when I'm in the forest, I am aware of these trees. You know that the new studies are showing us how a mother tree, a grandmother tree, literally sends information and nutrients to offspring and descendants several generations out from that one tree, and how the fungal hyphae that are associated with that tree, which, by the way, I had a research grant when I was 16 to study. That was amazing. Anyway, fungal hyphae associated with that tree are what allow the earth to support the other life, the other kinds of life that emerge. And so we get specific kinds of life in specific areas based on what was that mother tree and that grandmother tree. And then when she falls, which she will at some point, hopefully thousands of years hence, but often decades, then what happens? Along the trunk, a whole new set of trees come forward. It's just beautiful. Building and cultivating our relationship always requires an exploration of understanding. Who is this being? How do they work? What is important to them? How can I be in relationship with them? How can we both benefit from that relationship? Yeah. So then what begins to happen as we get into that understanding, it's been pointed out over and over again, one of my favorite physicists likes to say, a cup full of science leads to atheism, but digging down to the depths leads one to God. Yes, and in my case, in our case, we can say that word G-O-D, or we can say spirit, or we can say life, or we can say the mother, or we can say the creator, we can say whatever word we want. But as we get deeper into that understanding in any relationship, we get to that spiritual connection, that realization that it is and we are one. There is no fundamental difference at the level of spirit. Every being is that one life, that one might, that one power, that one wisdom manifested in myriad ways for all of our fulfillment. So what's going on in the natural world today? I can't leave without addressing that. We have spent, in our culture, 6,000 years of empire being afraid of and attempting to control nature, as if it were outside of us, as if we were separate, as if we could be objective. Not possible. And we're beginning to finally be whacked on the side of the head. No, you don't get to do that. Now, we've had lots of opportunities to learn this more gently. You know, as I've said often, in the 70s we were telling people this. Well, in 1850-something, someone wrote a paper explaining that what we are doing is leading. And Chief Seattle, in 1854, the final line of that talk that we didn't get in our reading was, if white man continues as he is, the world will become a desert. Wow. This is what we have been doing. And anyone with eyes to see or willingness to enter in relationship with nature has seen this. Anyone who's willing to go into the understanding of processes has seen this. Now, what's interesting about these whacks on the side of the head is they tend to lay us flat. They tend to cause us to no longer be able to act in the way we were acting. But that doesn't have to stop us from making the shift to a new way of acting. And the first step is to cultivate our relationship with the natural world. Even if, as many of the people that I have spoken to over the years, I used to have to go once a month to a nursing home, where most of the folks were really between drugs and stages of development, not functional. And all of these people would be brought into the room, and I was supposed to give them a sermon. Yeah, Jeff understands that. What I did is I played music until they were engaged. I played uplifting music. Kinds of things Jeff does for us. And then I would invite them to remember something wonderful, something beautiful, something love-filled in their world. And if possible, if there was a window, I'd invite them to look out at the greenery, if there was any. Because that's actually one of the things Ralph Waldo Emerson encourages us to do. If all else fails, look out the window at the natural thing. And if you can't see anything green, look at the sky. Right? Look at anything that is natural out there. So I would invite that. And then I would invite them to experience the love of the universe flowing in them and through them toward anyone that they could imagine or remember. And that was our Sunday service. And I would remind them that even if you're lying flat in bed and you can't do anything else, you can do this. You can allow that light to flow through you. I learned that from a physicist who was in his last days on this planet. I love that.
So we are being invited by this nature, this beingness of the universe, this Mother Earth, this Gaia, to stop doing what we were doing and to start living in a different way. To live in a way where our food comes as close as possibly from the earth. To live in a way where the earth that is around us is supported and sustained in its natural processes. To live in a way where we get to go out and explore something natural every day. I invite a minimum of 10 to 15 minutes out in the natural world. That way you get your vitamin D anyway from the sun. And a minimum of 15 to 20 minutes a day inside in your inner world. And what begins to happen is that connection, that deep spiritual connection that is the core of every relationship. And there we can begin to act and be the fully developed beings we are being called and supported to be every day, every moment. Every breath we take, every step we take. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ruth. I think I shared my story a couple of weeks ago when I went outside to be in nature and be quiet, and I turned left and looked up and saw all these huckleberries. I was like, whoa, what a concept. Yes, go outside, look outside, breathe, be with nature, even if it's 10, 15 minutes a day. So thank you, appreciate that very much. Catherine said earlier, your reading was on generosity. And I'm going to read it again. Generosity is often quite bold. Ignoring the evidence of friends and family and moving forward with courage and conviction, generosity is willing to take risks. In fact, risks have little constraint on a generous heart. Generosity invites us to put ourselves in another's shoes, see and feel the existence of a pressing need, and realize it is within our power to help, and then act in whatever way we can. It's really as simple as that. So as I'm sitting here listening to Ruth, I'm listening also to what's happening outside, and at once, first I thought it was raining outside, and I'm not sure it is, but if anybody's ever been here at FOOF, when it really rains, it gets really loud in here, right? So it feels kind of loud, like it's raining outside. And I'm thinking about our friends at the Florence Emergency Cold Weather Shelter, who are trying very hard to bring a warm space to those who might be stuck in the rain and or the cold on a freezing night. Your generosity can help that endeavor continue. So they're not only asking for our financial support, but they're looking for physical support as well, the generosity of your time. If you have an idea or not of what it might be like to help these men and women with their pets, find a nice warm spot in their little shelter, we need people who can be there overnight to help them through that situation and to monitor what's going on. So if you are so inclined and you want to spend a well-deserved evening and into the morning awake and helping them, that's a way to volunteer. So I invite you to consider the ways that you can help the Florence Emergency Cold Weather Shelter. Great organization, and coming very soon, they're going to need to open those doors to those little huts that they have to provide safe and warm shelter to those who need it. That's where you can help in that respect. The other help you can do and the other generosity you can have is to this particular fellowship. If today's message touched a part of you and you want more of that in the future, help us continue to bring these wonderful messages to you. Help us help our ministry, Catherine, who makes phone calls and visits and helps people along the way. We bring beautiful music from Jeff, and Tuvia shares, as well as Mark Leedy and others. We have things that we're doing for you. And we'd like you to be able to repay us in kind, to say, yeah, we appreciate it. Here's a couple of bucks. Keep doing it. So you can make your contribution by sending a check payable to FOOF, mail it to P.O. Box 2502, Florence 97439. In the memo line, you can say how much you would like to go to FOOF, how much you would like to go to the cold weather shelter. Or the other endeavor we're working on right now is the We Care project, and trying to find resources to help fill baskets that we take over to our local hospital to say thank you to our healthcare providers. 3 opportunities to give. And this is the big ask. Please give. If you would like to do this on our website, I've told us our website address before, right? Shall I do it one more time?
Sure.
I think I'm going to put it right here, so you can see it right here, subliminally. Our website, florenceuuf.org. www.florenceuuf.com. And you can go to our website, florenceuuf.com. Click on the donate button, and you can also donate through using your major credit card. So as we go forward with this big ask, I ask that you repeat after me. Divine love through me.
Divine love through me.
Blesses and multiplies all that I am.
Blesses and multiplies all that I am.
All that I give.
All that I give.
And all that I receive.
And all that I receive.
I am prosperous now.
I am prosperous now.
Blessed be.
Blessed be.
And blessed you. I invite Catherine to come forward. We're going to extinguish our flame. Today, these words come from George Brooks, titled, May the love that gives to life its beauty. Thank you, ma'am. Oh, one more time. Sometimes you just have to do it. May the love that gives to life its beauty, the resonance that gives to life its sacredness, and the purposes that give to life its deep significance be strong within each of us and lead us into ever-deepening relationships with all of life, with all of nature. Blessed be.
Blessed be.
So thank you, Ruth. Thank you for being here today. Thank you, Jeff, for your music, Jay for your camera work, and Catherine for your joys and concerns, etc. So we're done, except we're going to sing the peace song. If anybody wants to come forward, I asked Jeff to give us his special rendition of the peace song. And you at home, just enjoy this, okay? This is our production, our gift to you today, our peace song.